And when I'm not getting disturbed by the sounds of ride-on lawnmowers, barking dogs, and herds of sheep being moved up the road by angry farmers, Danny, your life is I don't know, it's a sort of novel. It's like set the scene for Cornwall. Voila. Magellan TV coming at ya as the sponsor of today's wonderful video. If it's wonderful, smash that like button, subscribe to Magellan TV. It's brilliant and an extremely good deal. Binge-worthy documentaries is what Magellan TV do. Probably should have said that, but I'll tell you more about them in a bit. For now, today's video. Thank you! Hello everybody and welcome back to another brand new episode of Brain Blaze. What's that? Yes, that's what we do here. Wait, have I explained what we do here? Brilliant start, Whistle Boy. What happens is Danny writes me a script, things that exist to annoy physics. Oh, I remember coming up with this idea. I was, because I'm absolutely creatively bankrupt, I was like, what would be a good idea for a Brain Blaze video? Nice save, Whistle Boy. What would work? What would get all of the clicks? And so I went over to some of my other channels. This was actually from top 10s. And I clicked sort by most popular. And one of our most popular videos ever was things that annoy physics. And I was like, Danny, don't copy that video. But I mean, what we're going to do is we're going to blaze it up. And that's what we're doing right now. I'm going to read it. Sam afterwards is going to add in some fine vintage memes. That's what we do here. Let us begin. I was once told a wild rumour while enjoying an upside-down tankard of ale in the Impossible Triangle Tavern. Danny, what is going on? I'm lost already. This sounds like some Harry Potter shit.
Joke's on you, I'm into that shit!
There's an enchanting hamlet called... Netherlands people, what the fuck is this shit? Vrouwenbuurtstermolen, which lies in the city of Leeuwarden in the Netherlands. The elegant houses and sprawling mansions and Gothic palaces in this upmarket and peaceful hamlet look on first glance as if they are within financial grasp of only the wealthiest of YouTubers. Yes! I'm not in the wealthiest of YouTubers. Oh my god. Those kids' channels. I use Social Blade that shit, and it's like, oh my god, you got 500 million views last month? Making stupid videos. Like, I watched Cocomelon. Cocomelon has a Netflix series. It's so shit. Like, and I don't exactly have a high opinion of children's television anyway. But there's another TV show called Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, which is fantastic. I mean, it's got good messages, the animation's quite nice, it's really warm-hearted, and Cocomelon is just like badly animated shit without a message at all. And I'm like, how the is this the most popular thing? It's terrible.
Daddy, chill.
Christ, how do we get onto this? Oh yeah, rich YouTubers. And I'm sure whoever the is running Cocomelon is absolutely making that bank. And yet the property prices are remarkably affordable, about the same as the annual rent for a bedsit in London with a shared toilet and a window cage garden. Wait, you can rent a place with a shared bathroom? Oh, I mean, I guess like if you're renting the room, right? Then there can be a shared bathroom. Like, of course I had that when I was a student. I just imagine like apartments with shared bathrooms, which would be a lot more weird because it's like, wait, why have you got a kitchen but nowhere to take a shit? That sink is soon getting rechristened as a different sort of device.
You what?
And no, I've never taken a shit in a sink. I have pissed in a sink. I pissed in the sink basically every day for a year.
Dirty mother.
For some reason, when I was at university, there were sinks in the rooms, but they weren't ensuite bedrooms. So you had a sink where, brush your teeth and have a drink of water. And the running joke was that those are like urinals. Because it's like, you're not going to, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, you're going to have, you wake up in the night, it's like, are you going to go to the shared toilets or are you just going to, lean over and have a piss in the sink? And it's like, the building where I stayed, it was like 100 years old. And there'd been 100 years of people pissing in that little sink in the corner. Love it. No shame. Absolutely no shame about it. I'm slightly proud of it, in fact. You can probably tell that from my tone of voice. Let's move on. The reason for the low prices may have something to do with the fact that the hamlet's architect went by the name of Moritz Cornelis Escher. Oh god, the guy who did the Escher paintings with all the crazy shit. During his later years when he discovered hip-hop, he preferred to be known simply as MC Escher. Fucking Danny, that is a top-notch joke. And the problem with Escher's houses is that every time you got out of bed in the morning to go to work, you'd end up spending the rest of eternity travelling up and down impossible winding staircases that always led back to the same bloody place. It's probably just an urban myth. Looking at photographs of the unpronounceable Dutch town today, the most interesting construction on display seems to be a rather nice flour mill. But the hamlet was certainly the birthplace of my favourite ever artist, MC Escher, who had a knack for creating beautiful woodcut lithographs, mezzotints. What the f*** are mezzotints? Culture fact, boy. This is something you might want to look into.
Not scientifically possible!
That was seemingly a window into a mirror universe where the usual rules of physics and mathematics and common sense don't apply. Yeah, I mean, there's no places where the rules of physics and mathematics don't apply, but there's plenty of places where the rules of common sense don't apply. Like I feel like anything to do with politics, to be honest. And many other great talents have enjoyed screwing with our minds even further by conjuring up real physical manifestations of impossible objects which appear to only defy our current understanding of physics. So bearing in mind that Alice always claimed to believe in 6 impossible things before breakfast, what are we talking about? Who is that? Is this Alice in Wonderland? I mean, obviously I've seen Alice in Wonderland. Was there a book? I believe it was a book by Lewis Carroll, wasn't it? But I've not read the book, obviously, because I'm not that culture, but I've seen that movie that gave me nightmares as a kid. But it's been so long that I didn't know anything about Alice's 6 impossible things before breakfast. Let's see how many we can manage to get through before I ring my bell for the lunchtime specials menu. Danny, the lunchtime specials menu is the same as it is every day. It's the weird mushrooms that grow in the corner of the damp basement. The wrong garden. It was one of MC Escher's impossible lithographs that provided fresh inspirations to the billionaire inventor Sir James Dyson to have another go at creating something impossible. Dyson had already done this at least once before in 1983 when he designed the world's first bagless vacuum cleaner, also the world's most expensive vacuum cleaner. I'm like, what the fuck? It was a few years ago I was buying a vacuum cleaner and people were like, those Dysons. And my parents always had a Dyson. It's Dyson, Dyson, Dyson. And I go to the store and I'm like, let's get a Dyson. I'm like, holy shit, who buys a Dyson? Oh my God. I walked past a store the other day and I look in the window and there's a plastic chair. And I'm like, it's not an ugly plastic chair. It's not bad. I mean, I don't know if it doesn't look super comfortable. And I looked in the window and there's a little price tag hanging down off it. And it was the equivalent of $1,000. And I'm like, is that like the set of 6? Because even so, that's expensive. It's like, no, that's just one designer chair. And I'm like, who the f*** buys this? Who is actually buying this $1,000 kitchen chair? It's just a mystery to me. And it's like, I know lots of rich people, and I can't imagine a single one of them spending that amount of money on a chair. It's just like, what? Who would do that? The idea of using a vacuum cleaner that didn't even need replacement dust bags must have felt right up there with cooking your first microwave meal, taking your first photograph from that silly phone, and enjoying your first flight into space with Virgin Galactic. Oh my God, the day I'm recording this, William Shatner's going to space. And I'm like, we did a whole video about the billionaires and whether they're good for the world. All I know is it's f***ing cool that Captain Kirk is going to space and no one can tell me otherwise. I think William Shatner's a bit of a legend, and I'm super happy that he's 90 years old and he's taking his old ass to space. I'm like, you absolute legend, Bill. It's a pity that the manufacturers and distributors in the UK weren't remotely interested, as they didn't want to disrupt the lucrative market for replacement dust bags. But Dyson still managed to get his foot in the door when he sold his new bagless vacuum cleaners via mail order catalogue in Japan instead. I have to say, what is wrong with having a bag in a vacuum cleaner, James? It's like, I feel like it's actually quite convenient, because I remember having to empty out the Dyson when I was a kid. You'd have to detach this thing. It's like, a plume of smoke would come up. You'd be like, this smoke, dust, which apparently is like 90% people's skin. And then you take it outside and you have to dump it in the wheelie bin and it would all go up everywhere. And I'm like, it's been and with the bags vacuum cleaner, you just pop it open, you take out the bag and you throw it in the bin. And it's very convenient. And people are like, oh, you're wasting plastic. And I'm like, well, it's made out of paper and it's not very thick. I'm like, who gives This is a much better system. Look, bagged vacuum cleaners were an innovation, I'm sure, at some point, and they're great. And they're also about 1,000 times less expensive than a f***ing Dyson.
You're gonna rip your dick off.
What?
If you stick your dick in this vacuum cleaner and turn it on, you're gonna rip your dick off.
Why would I do that?
Going to interrupt you to tell you about today's woo! I mean, rarely has a sponsor come along that is so glorious as Magellan TV. I have to say, normally, like Magellan TV, I'm really glad they continue to sponsor Brain Blaze, although I think they still have the promo code BusinessBlaze. They do, but don't worry about that. You guys know what's up. I'm glad they continue to sponsor Brain Blaze because it's like the least aligned one. Like all my other channels, if you didn't know, I do other channels. They're kind of like documentary style. We explore things. They're more educational. Whereas this channel is just a bit of a... I don't even know how to describe it other than a bit of a show. But they continue, and thank you, Magellan. Mwah, love you. What am I talking about? How did we get here? Magellan TV is a new documentary streaming service founded by filmmakers who love history. They believe in that old adage about studying history. You can't know where you're going until you understand where you've been. That is very philosophical. As I always say, I love Magellan because, I don't know, I just end up watching documentaries about war and and I'm like, I know I'm supposed to learn lessons from this, but I wasn't planning on doing a Holocaust. It's not like, oh my God, the Holocaust, now I know about it, I'm not gonna do that. That sounds like a terrible idea. I mean, why would you do this? I already knew that wasn't really on the cards, to be honest. I mean, really complicated. That's not the reason I wouldn't do a Holocaust. It's morally reprehensible. It's probably the reason. What are we talking about? How did we get here? What am I saying? Magellan TV has one of the richest catalogues of history content available pretty much anywhere online. Everything from the Greeks to the Great War. Oh my God, I'm so sick of the Greeks. I don't want to say it, like, because I know I'm supposed to, keep the ad read positive, but I've made so many biographics videos about Greeks and Romans that everyone loves that I'm just like, oh my God, please, no more Greeks and Romans. I'm so bored of the Greeks and Romans. But I never get bored of the 20th century. Like, modern wars, or, 20th century wars, 21st century is endlessly fascinating to me. But if I hear about another Sparta, Roman, spear, phalanx, I'm like, I'm out. I'm checked out. Just 100%. Keep it positive, Simon. Their team of producers and content developers look all over the world for new documentaries to add to the library, updating it every single week. The end product is like if Netflix was designed by your favorite history professor. And what's one thing you love about paid streaming services? No ads. You won't find any ads on Magellan TV. Just straight up great content coming at you. Now, honestly, I didn't prep these talking points, and it's kind of ironic. The thing I was supposed to talk about today is the Roman Empire, including titles like Rome, Empire Without Limits, which I'm sure is great. I haven't watched it, but all of the stuff on Magellan is really good. And look, I know you like Rome, because everyone does except for me, because I've done so much about it. But yeah, Rome Empire Without Limits, I assume that's really good because honestly, all of the stuff on Magellan is. Right now, you guys can get a 1-month free trial with Magellan by clicking on the link in the description below. It's content for days and days. So let Magellan hook you up, you'll be glad you did. And let's get back to today's video. Oh, I guess they did update the promo code, or I don't have to read it, or something. Excellent. Back to the video. 20 years later, and several billion pounds richer, somehow, Dyson found himself inspired by MC Escher's waterfall lithograph from 1961, which depicts the visual paradox of a watermill in perpetual motion, in which the fallen water appears to naturally work its way right back up to the top again. Dyson thought it might be fun to try and knock out his own impossible waterfall and show it off at the 2003 Chelsea Flower Show, which is a big deal in the UK. At least it was in my household growing up. There's always mentions of the Chelsea Flower Show. People went to see the Chelsea Flower Show. I know nothing about it and I will never go. I quite like nature. I quite like flowers. As part of a larger exhibit which went under the enticing title of Wrong Garden. Yes, well done. Genius work on the name of that. Thousands of green-fingered visitors queued up for hours to see Dyson's fountain structure, in which the water clearly appeared to be moving up in a series of 4 clear glass ramps. Isn't this like those infinity taps, where it's just a tap that looks to be pouring water and really there's a little pipe that goes up the middle to put the water back up to the top and then it pours down? And it's like, yeah, that's fascinating until you figure out how it's done in about 4 seconds. Why do you have to go to the queue up at the Chelsea Flower Show to see something like this? Just go to like Flying Tiger, that store that sells all that junk. They've probably got one in there. Quite like Flying Tiger. It's not, it is all junk, but it's like, oh yeah, I could use a fancy moleskin notebook. Why not? I need that to have good ideas. I think I stole that joke. I can't remember where I heard it, but it was like someone was saying like, I don't need a moleskin notebook to have good ideas. And I just resonated with that. I'm like, yeah, right. Thousands of green-fingered visitors queued up for hours to see... Oh, I read that already, didn't I? And the visitors were enchanted and intrigued as they watched water pouring off the top of each ramp before beginning the physics-defying ascent up the next ramp. So how on earth did Dyson manage to make water travel uphill in an everlasting waterfall? Okay, so that's quite cool, because then it actually looks like the water is flowing uphill somehow. It's going to be like with some vacuum cleaner in the back sucking it up or something, isn't it?
Is there like another vacuum?
That won't rip your dick off?
I'm just trying to clean my apartment,
It's this
man.
one, right here.
I've no idea, but it looks really clever. Maybe it's got something to do with hidden pumps or vacuum cleaners or something. Oh wait, am I supposed to explain how it's done? Yes, Danny.
Okay, smartass. Let's see what this mystery's all about.
Well, Dyson had a lot of help from his engineer, Derek Phillips. He must have originally thought that his boss had gone round an eternal Escher-like loop of madness when he was first commissioned to invent the impossible fountain. He joked to the BBC, "My initial reaction was to look for Paul Daniels' phone number, but I've had to become a bit of an illusionist myself." But obviously it makes sense to talk to the magician, because you're making like a magician-style thing. It's not like Paul Daniels is actually some sort of wizard who could help you make water go uphill. He's just like a guy who thinks about this stuff all the time and how to make it possible. Obviously, it seems like a really good idea to call Paul Daniels. I would actually consult magicians about doing this. Although both Derek and Dyson were initially reluctant to divulge the secrets and spill the beans uphill, it would appear that the fountain is simply a very convincing optical illusion. Well, obviously, water doesn't flow uphill.
So that was a fucking lie.
Most of the water is actually encased between two layers of transparent plastic and is very much travelling downwards in the way that you'd expect. Another very thin layer of water is also trickling downwards over the top of the glass. Only a relatively small amount of compressed air is pumped upwards from the bottom, but it's enough to create air bubbles underneath the glass, rising naturally upwards towards the aperture. And these bubbles flowing upward between the two separate layers of water are enough to convince the foolish human mind that a single flow of water is magically travelling uphill. Okay, so they just ran with it until it looked right. It's pretty clever, I have to say. It's better than the super expensive vacuum cleaners.
This motherfucker's still gonna buy it. Nasty ass vacuum fuckers. Here.
I think it's a little surprising that Dyson didn't kickstart a trend for uphill water features in the everyday British garden, although it's unlikely that any business competitors would have been allowed to enter the market. The catchy slogans for Dyson's vacuum cleaners usually run along the lines of, "We patent the shit out of everything, so you pay us top whack or go without, knobhead." Or just buy another vacuum cleaner that's just as good and has a convenient bag. But perhaps there wasn't such a big market for uphill water fountains anyway. The wrong garden only managed to win the silver medal for best garden at the Chelsea Flower Show, with the gold medal going to a rather more traditional and quite boring design. Maybe the world isn't quite ready for uphill waterfalls yet. Some of us are probably still using replacement dust bags for vacuum cleaners. Those smooth-brained idiots. Hello, darkness. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I always imagined that living in a sleepy Cornish village would be conducive to writing. I hadn't banked on the massive cock living up the road. Oh my. Ha! Gay! He's a noisy rooster. Oh, he's an actual cock. Actual cock. Who goes by the name of Drumstick. And when I'm not getting disturbed by the sounds of ride-on lawnmowers, barking dogs, and herds of sheep being moved up the road by angry farmers, Danny, your life is I don't know, it's a sort of novel. It's like set the scene for Cornwall. Voila. I'm getting disturbed by the sound of Drumstick crowing about every 7 minutes. I often crave a bit of peace and quiet, but I had no idea that extreme silence can not only be deafening, it can drive you a bit loopy and eat away at your soul until you're begging for the comfort of sound. Oh my god.
Daddy, chill.
You're not likely to find a quieter spot on Earth than the anechoic chamber. The chamber at Orfield Laboratories in Minnesota held the record for the world's quietest place for some considerable time, and it's still the quietest place open to the public, although the world record was recently seized by a new private anechoic chamber in Microsoft's HQ in Redmond, Washington. Why are they building these things? What for? The purpose-built rooms, okay, here we go. Big brain packed boy, just read the script. Are usually designed for the comprehensive testing of noises and sounds emanating from potential new products. For example, the Microsoft room is used to accurately detect any hums and clicks coming from keyboards, mice, fans, the Xbox, and HoloLens VR goggles. Is that a thing? I thought that was a flop. Is that actually coming? I hope so. I love all that. The one at Orfield Laboratories has also been used to test the sound of appliances, heart valves, hearing aids, and medical defibrillators. You're not going to hear much, though, on the hearing aid, are you? Why is it so quiet? You've become deaf, or you're in the super quiet room.
Oh, you're deaf. Okay, thank you. Love you.
A typical anechoic chamber, I've no idea if I'm pronouncing this right and I don't care, is typically a large pyramid-shaped room completely insulated from outside noise, in which the walls, ceilings and floors are plastered in long triangular fiberglass or foam wedges which absorb the slightest sound to prevent it from bouncing back at you. Microsoft's onion-shaped chamber... Just checking that's on. Otherwise, I've recorded about 20 minutes of video without the mic on, which I did once, and it was very upsetting. And by once, I mean many, many, many times. It's almost as bad as you filmed a video. So, oh no, it's out of focus. The whole f***ing thing's out of focus. The other day, my editor goes back to me. It's like, Simon, you might want to shoot this one. I'm like, oh, why? What's going on? Well, there's a massive bogey on your moustache. It's like you've blown your nose and haven't successfully wiped it away. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry to do this to you. I'm so sorry I did this to myself. I hate myself. That's a lie. I'm great.
Hello, darkness, my old friends.
Microsoft's onion-shaped chamber is made from 6 layers of concrete and steel, whilst the floor is actually just a grid of sound-consuming suspended cables knitted together like a trampoline net. But the effect of standing in what feels like an infinitely large room goes way beyond an eerie stillness. For starters, it's actually quite hard to speak, as the sound of your voice is being sucked away from the source and isn't getting bounced back at you in any form. It's not a million miles away from the sensation of 2 people attempting to hold a conversation with each other while both wearing headphones blasting out the greatest hits of Yoko Ono. I mean, I know these rooms make people insane. And, you know, they're like, I could only survive 10 minutes in there. And then I had to have some sound, I had to get out. And I'd be like in there for like 7 days, just eating food from a straw for some reason. I don't know why. I could probably have food in there, couldn't I? The sound of my eating would probably drive me crazy. But I'd be in there for weeks before I'd be like, yeah. No, I'd rather listen to Yoko Ono than silence. Because her music is fucking horrible. Music. In my opinion, allegedly. But the most disconcerting revelation from standing in an echoed chamber is just how noisy it can be. Noisy silence can be. A harsh human whisper usually weighs in at about 30 decibels. The sound of an average human breath is around 10 decibels, while 0 decibels is supposed to be the absolute lowest threshold of sound that can be detected by the human ear. But the anechoic chamber are so quiet that the background noise levels are measured in minus figures. Microsoft's chamber has a world record-breaking background noise of minus 20 decibels, not very far away from the sound of air molecules bouncing off one another. No. That's seriously? That means that the experience of being in an echoic chamber can be deeply unsettling, as all you hear is the creaking of your own joints, the beating of your own heart, and the blood pumping through your own head. This is amazing. I want to try this.
Dirty mother.
If somebody else is standing at the other end of the room, you'll still be able to hear every tiny gurgle of their stomach with crystal clarity. After a short period of time, you may actually begin to feel dizzy and lose your balance, as the total lack of reverberation begins to mess with your spatial awareness. And so, it's little wonder that not many people can stand to be in the room for very long before they're begging to be let out after realizing that silence is far from golden. Yes! Anechoic chambers would probably make a pretty effective interrogation technique for the US military if they weren't so damn expensive to build. Yeah, because you know what's free? Waterboarding, baby, yes! FBI! The eternal spinning top. Imagine if a spinning top could last forever. Oh my god. A friend of mine sent me an advert for a spinning top that he was getting retargeted as. And he was like, why would you spend £70 on a spinning top? And why is this company advertising to me? He was just confused about it. I mean, we're often sending like weird shit we find online to each other. And so as a joke, I bought him one and I said, and for the last, this was maybe 3 years ago, for the last 3 years, this company still retargeting me. It's like, dude, I already bought your product literally as a joke for a friend, and you're still advertising to me 3 years later like I'm going to buy another one. It's like, what's going on? How have you wasted so much money on me? I mean, I guess you can because you sell £70 spinning tops. But I mean, really?
That's the coolest fucking story I've ever heard in my entire life. That's insane. Can I hear it again?
Well, it wouldn't actually really be that exciting, would it? I'm sure that even the most stimulation-starved toddler would quickly grow bored of watching the same gyroscopic toy spinning round and round and round. But the idea of an eternal spinning top grew more intriguing following the release of Christopher Nolan's classic mind-bending film Inception in 2010. Great movie. In the film, Leonardo DiCaprio's character of Cobb uses a tiny spinning top or totem to determine whether he's currently in the real world or a dream. If the totem stops spinning, he knows he's awake. If the totem disregards the laws of physics and carries on spinning continuously, he knows he's asleep. Of course, in the real world, the angular momentum created by a traditional spinning top would usually only keep it upright for about 10 seconds before it begins to get wobbly and quickly succumbs to torque and friction. But in 2018, the American company Breaking Toys and the Israeli company Fearless Toys took inspiration from Inception to create a contraption based on deception. Oh, wordplay! The seemingly impossible Limbo was a clever name, was a spinning top that went on spinning for hours and hours, powered by dark sorcery and ancient magic, or possibly batteries. The new gadget was clearly designed to make you question your whole perception of reality. In fact, it even smashed a Guinness World Record, though I'm not quite sure how it managed to get into the books. Apparently, a team of officials witnessed Limbo spinning for no less than 27 hours, 9 minutes and 24 seconds before it surrendered to the wobble. And this was enough to... Oh, that'd be really loud in one of those anechoic chambers, wouldn't it? And this was enough to award Limbo with the world record for longest running mechanical spinning top. Brackets open. Prototype, brackets closed. Okay. The final word is that the very specific category reflected the fact that Limbo was not yet a commercially available product. Brilliant. Thanks for being so specific, Guinness World Records. That's what I look to you for. I mean, I do look for specificity in world records, but not with the titles. I mean, it's just unnecessary. But the truth is that Limbo was not technically a spinning top at all, and this is even made clear in the opening fluff of the Kickstarter campaign for the new product, which managed to raise a grand total of $687,827. Holy shit. The campaign clearly states, technically Limbo is a smart self-balancing electric gyro disguised as a beautiful spinning top that spins for hours. Oh, okay, so it's not even got a battery in it, it's just a gyro. That is very cool. So it turns out that no wizards or mystical spells were involved in the design of this product. After all, the sleek design of the Limbo concealed a flywheel motor, a motion sensor, a rechargeable battery. Oh, okay. So we're cheating on all fronts here. A system on a chip which constantly monitors stability and made small motion corrections when necessary. That is pretty sick, isn't it? That sounds a bit like cheating to me, and it's not particularly attractive purchase, bearing in mind that the price you pay for these tops are between $60 and $169 a spin. Seeing as I spent 70 quid on a joke top for my friends, that actually sounds quite reasonable now, and I want one. My spinning top budget has just it's been reframed. It's really high. I'm like, spinning tops, really expensive purchases. It gets worse though. Despite an originally promised release date in oh no, it's going to be one of these Kickstarter things where it's like, no, they just didn't. They took all the money and it never showed up. There's still no sign of Limbo. The makers of the toy announced they're attempting to source a custom motor in China, then changed their minds and announced that Limbo would contain a standard motor from China, then changed their minds and announced they'd be building a new motor from scratch in China, then declared that COVID restrictions had prevented them from visiting China. Guys, it sounds like you just don't know how to make this, or it's just, you spend all the money on crack, allegedly.
Exactly. Yes, I have smoked crack cocaine.
It seems that the world record-smashing prototype was an expensive bespoke design, and the makers of the toy have been experiencing difficulties in mass-producing Limbo at the price that was promised. Hundreds of backers have complained and demanded a refund, while the Kickstarter platform has recently deactivated the campaign without informing backers of what exactly will happen with the money they pledged. And there, everybody, is a good reason. I've backed, I think, 2 Kickstarter campaigns. They were both just stay away from Kickstarter, okay, in my opinion. Nobody should ever go with the name Limbo when launching a new product on a crowdfunding platform. That's just tempting fate way too much. Yes, Starlight. Oh, I've heard of this one. This is like that magical material that the guy invented that's super resistant to heat or something. Every Thursday night for 38 years on BBC One, viewers in the UK would tune into the science and technology programme Tomorrow's World. Loved Tomorrow's World as a kid. For a fascinating glimpse into the future, or in my case, I would impatiently sit through it while waiting for Top of the Pops to come on. Oh, Danny, no. But if you were into that kind of thing, Tomorrow's World made a long printout of accurate predictions during its run between 1965 and 2003, after which the BBC presumably came to the conclusion that there was nothing else worth looking forward to. Yeah. And the BBC were right.
Hello, darkness, my old friends.
The show presented viewers with an opportunity to take their very first peek at home computers, pocket calculators, digital watches, CD players, mobile phones, camcorders, and robotic vacuum cleaners, all technology that's incredibly commonplace or just straight up out of date now.
This is a vacuum cleaner that sucks dicks really well.
I don't know what your deal is, man.
And during one memorable episode from 1990, Tomorrow's World also introduced us to a seemingly impossible new invention which looked destined to change the world. But the secrets of this new discovery were then lost were then destined to be lost forever. The episode kicked off with presenter Peter McCann. The episode kicked off with presenter Peter McCann holding up an egg to the audience. It gets more interesting than this, I promise. He's gonna heat the egg with a blowtorch, isn't he, Danny? Peter coats the egg in a mysterious new paint-like substance called Starlight, which he reckons is packed with quite remarkable heat-resisting properties. And to demonstrate the power of Starlight, Peter whips out a welding torch and fires out an intense blue flame directly at the egg, reaching temperatures of 1,200 degrees Celsius or 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit for people who are stuck in the 1960s. He then holds up the slightly warm egg and cracks it open in a bowl to reveal that it's completely raw inside. This is incredible. The potential for a new protective coating that could resist such extreme temperatures over such a long period was mind-boggling. Starlight could have been used to create fireproof buildings and safer furniture. It could have changed the direction of a war by getting plastered on tanks or ships or aircraft which would be completely impervious to nuclear weapons. Wait. I don't think that's how radiation... Was it just magically also totally impervious to radiation? So I'm fairly sure that's a big part of nuclear weapons. It's like, no, the ship's completely fine, but the entire crew have been turned into superheroes. I mean, not really. That's not what happens with radiation. They just get, radiation sickness and then die horrible deaths. Although they start feeling better, because you have that initial blast of radiation, and you're like, oh no, look, I'm great, I recovered. And then it kills you, because I saw that Chernobyl miniseries, and I was like, oh my god, that's so sad. The BBC was right, there is nothing to look forward to. It could have paved the way for really cool party tricks in which you fire a blowtorch directly into your face. Alas, none of this was to be because the inventor seems strangely reluctant to pass on his secrets. Maurice Ward was hardly the most likely candidate to make a discovery that had eluded the world's leading scientists for hundreds of years. The man from a quiet Yorkshire town in England was an inventor hobbyist, but he was a hairdresser by trade who had never actually undertaken any scientific training or even attended university, although he had spent a brief period working for a chemical company, but he had been employed as the forklift truck driver. Following the live experiments on Tomorrow's World, Maurice was contacted by defense organizations in both the UK and the US, and is even alleged to have had talks with NASA. Well, obviously, because it'd be incredibly useful to NASA. It's claimed that he allowed limited testing of his new miracle substance, and it's claimed sounds mega suspicious. And NATO reported to have run tests in which Starlight... Wait, NATO actually reported this, or it's reported that NATO? Big difference. Run tests in which Starlight was proven to withstand simulated nuclear blasts of 70 kilocalorie forces, the equivalent of about 70 Hiroshima explosions.
Hey guys, I just found out a new way how to go to sleep. Look.
What? Really? I mean, I'm very skeptical. I don't think that actually happens. But Maurice never sold or even patented his invention over the next 2 decades, and he took the secrets of Starlight to his grave in 2011. It's been speculated that he just couldn't decide on a price tag, with one source claiming that Maurice would ask for £1 million one day, £10 million the next. Oh, Maurice, even at £10 million, you are massively, absolutely massively underselling it. This is £1 billion thing. Easy. You've invented something that's worth billions, tens of billions. I mean, the applications of this would be vast. But it seems odd that a hairdresser from Yorkshire went to such great lengths to promote his new invention on primetime television, but then just sat on his goldmine for the next 2 decades. Others suggest that the whole thing was a hoax. This guy. But although there's nothing to be found in the public record of the agencies reported to have tested Starlight, probably because they didn't, there's no denying that the UK witnessed a live demonstration of a quite remarkable substance in 1990. Yeah, but we've all witnessed loads of remarkable things on TV, like magic. A conspiracy theorist is more likely to suggest that the UK and US were well aware of the makeup of Starlight, but secretly paid off Maurice to keep his mouth shut, in fear that such invincibility could create devastating consequences in the wrong hands. A Californian startup under the name of Thermoshield claimed to have acquired Maurice's notes and technology in 2013, with the aim of turning Starlight into a viable commercial product, but since then updates have been quiet as an anechoic chamber, because the CIA is keeping them quiet. Bearing in mind Maurice's main profession, we should perhaps be looking at the secrets of Starlight at the bottom of an upside-down bottle of shampoo. Yes! This has been an episode of Brain Blaze. Thank you so much for watching. Yo, if you'd like to purchase the merch, yes, you can do it. Purchasethemerch.co is where you go. And thank you for watching.